Hallo. Guten Abend zusammen. Yeah, hello everybody. How is everyone?
Fine.
Fine? After a good day today?
Yep.
Yeah, a busy day? And still an evening to come, I understand, of celebrating perhaps, right? Excellent. Good. So, yes, the time is now. Diversity and inclusion. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch, okay? So I always say a little bit to be dangerous, but is it okay if I do my keynote in English? Yeah? Good. Vielen Dank. So, the time is now. Diversity and inclusion. For me, it's not just a slogan. It's not just something we say. I really believe and have examples that this creates business value. It makes business sense. So it's a little different. And I'm going to take you through a journey to show you how some of my experience has led to this conclusion, and how there are some studies now that are showing that an inclusive environment actually creates business value, and those businesses are even more profitable. I wanted to start our journey with a photo. Yeah, this is 1961. This is the Siemens booth. Yeah, looks a bit different than our booth today. A little bit. But what I really wanted to point out to you is take a look at the people that are there at the booth. Yeah? And I can tell you, you can do it. It's a big screen. But I went in and I tried to see, okay, are there any women in this photo? 9. None. So let's fast forward, yeah? Fast forward to the Siemens team booth photo. This was taken Monday morning at the launch of the Hannover Fair. So what do you think? Ein bisschen better? Ein bisschen better, huh? A little bit. If you look, please try to find me. Because I'm in the second row. And I, on purpose, yes, exactly, thank you. I wore a pink jacket. Because I said the photo is going to look like this otherwise. A sea of dark suits. But I am pleased to say, honestly, and all jokes aside, progress has been made. There has been made. It's a little better. Perhaps we don't have too many, let's say, other cultures present, but we're making progress. And I'm right there in the pink jacket. You can barely see me. So, progress is starting. Progress has been made. However, there's no doubt, and even that picture shows it. I'd be lying if I didn't say we have still a long way to go. We still have a long journey, right? Now, I am the CFO, as I was introduced. Thank you for the lovely introduction, by the way. I'm the CFO of Digital Industries, and as a good CFO, I really like numbers. The other thing I want to say is, so I'm going to take you through a journey that actually shows you some facts as to why we have to act now, why inclusion creates business value. But I'm also pleased and honored and thankful that you asked me to be here today on stage. I follow in the footsteps of Janina Kugel, I think was here last year, who's the CHRO of Siemens AG, a great colleague, a great advocate for inclusion and diversity, and I'm pleased to call her a friend. So, we still have a long way to go, and why? Why? And I think this is a multifaceted question, and there's lots of answers and lots of ways that we can look at why we are underrepresented in industry today as women. I've tried to encapsulate that a little bit into root causes. What do we need to address at the root of the issue? And I come up with a few topics here. First of all, post-secondary education in STEM. How do we continue to encourage women to go into STEM subjects? How do we ensure that we get more women like yourselves in industry? How do we ensure that there's more women in management? Because you'll see that there's an interesting phenomenon that happens when you enter into the career, and then as you progress, that something happens and it becomes smaller and smaller in terms of representation. And last but not least, women in C-level positions. Where are we? Where do we need to be? So, my facts, my KPIs, because I believe what gets measured gets done. So, 1 in 10 girls only enter into STEM. It's 10%. And I can tell you as a mother, a proud mother of an 11-year-old girl, I'm sensing a bit of a change. She's still very curious. She still has a mother who says you must continue to look at STEM. I can tell you she doesn't like math too much, but that's another story. But when it comes to science, she's absolutely engaged. She's curious. She wants to understand how things work. And I continue to promote that. But she's 11 going on 12, and I can see that the stereotypes are already causing a bit of a problem. Science isn't cool for girls. And hence, that's why we see 1 in 10 only. And there hasn't been much progress made in last years. If we look at then, of those 1 in 10, they go into the STEM subjects, all represented, it's only 32% that are female students in all of the STEM areas. Now ask me, how about, has that been progressing? Because that's pretty good, right? 32%, maybe. We haven't progressed other than just 1.5% in over a decade. That's not enough. Something is not working. How do we continue to encourage to get these numbers up, at least to parity? How about apprenticeships? So I just came back from visiting my team in the UK, and they have a very vibrant apprenticeship program there. And they were very proud to say to me, Maria, because I asked them, because I have this statistic, these are German statistics, okay, just to put into context. And I asked them, what is the percentage of females entering into the apprenticeship program in Siemens in the UK? And they said they were so proud, they got over 25%. And then I asked them, how did you do that? And they said, well, we really had to go out there and promote Siemens, not as the engineering white coat labs, but really going out, getting hands-on experience, making sure that it's not just all men around them, because that is actually takes a little bit of courage to be in that kind of environment. So by getting more girls in, by ensuring that they want to become apprenticeship, by telling them that these are careers that are really rewarding, then they were able to get over 25% this year. But it's been a journey, and it didn't happen overnight. It's consistently ensuring that we continue to promote this within the schools, etc. And it's only been 0.4% increase in the last 5 years. We can do better than that, right? Because it's not that there aren't opportunities out there. We have a skill shortage. We know this. We're in the industry, right? There's 500,000 open jobs in STEM, ripe for the picking. So how do we ensure that we encourage at the root cause? Like I said, with a child, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So in this area, it takes a society to change the stigmas attached and to ensure that we continue to encourage women into STEM. It's really important. So the second category, women in industry. This is us. 23.8%. Not so bad, right? What do you think? Okay? Let's go to leadership. Exactly, yeah. And a show of hands, please, all the way, even the ones in the back. Lots of seats, by the way, if you'd like to sit. Show of hands, who's in a leadership position today in M&E or in the industrial sector? You're leading teams. Hands. Okay. Because I have to tell you, I challenged this statistic when I saw it. I actually think it's a bit high. Sorry. This is based on experience. It's based on what I see every day. So only 17.3%. So let's think about now in the C-suite, right? So now we've gone from school into our sector, in the industrial sector, into leadership positions. Now, how about the C-suite? This is the Fortune 500. And maybe you think about my accent, I should maybe introduce myself. Ik ben Canadianisch. I'm Canadian. So I was raised in Toronto, and I come from North America, so I know that there has been a huge push for female CEOs in the in the Fortune 500. So to say in 1995 there were zero female CEOs in all of it. Today it's only 5%. 5%. It's progress, but since 1995, is that really progress? No. Okay, how about right here in our backyard? In Deutschland. Oh, what do you think? Oh. So who wants to be a female CEO in here? Please, thank you. We have the future female CEOs right here. We are going to change this statistic for sure. Because, come on, zero? Really? Never? Ever? Not one in history? That has to change. That has to change. And the good news is, and I actually was very pleased to see this, that 70%, at least 70%, we have one woman on the management board. So that's good. But that means they're non-executive board representation, right? We have to change that too. And by the way, if we go at this pace, take a guess at how many years it'll take. This is a good CFO. You know I love my KPIs. How many years would it take for us to get to equality? Take a guess. Really, just shout out some numbers. 200? Not that many. Just statistically. I'd like it to be in my lifetime. No, higher. 10 more, 40. 40 years. So I would like us to speed that up, because I would like to tell my daughter, who's 11 today, that this is possible. Parity is possible. We can have equal representation, but we have to all act now. Okay, so statistics. Still some statistics to be said. So I really wanted to share with you this McKinsey report, because it's brand new. It was just published. And I like to use let's say, the most up-to-date figures and statistics. And so this is women in the workplace. And what McKinsey did is since 2015, they've been tracking progress in all of the areas of, let's say, when one enters their career, all the way to the C-suite. So entry level, they see 48 to 52%, so there's no problem there. And then it goes all the way to C-suite, where there's 1 in 5, on average. The issue is that in 5 years, I'll show you in a moment, there's been relatively very little to no progress. But the observations are very interesting. Everybody says, okay, there's a bit of a drain, right? Women leave the workplace. And I have to also say, and maybe give my comments on this, and I want to be open, I've worked in lots of countries. And maybe from my perspective, in Germany, at least between Munich and Nuremberg and Erlangen, I still think there's an underlying expectation that, it is the woman that takes care of the household. It is the woman that then has to take a back seat. So what they're saying in this North American or America's base with some global information is, they're saying that attrition is just a symptom, it's not the problem. But I think here, there is a little bit of attrition happening, what I call the middle drain, where women leave the workforce because of family, et cetera. But if you look at the new generation, or even, let's say, people that are getting out of university today, and whatever you define as family, 2 people and a couple, whatever it is, they're educated, they have jobs. The expectation is not that one only does the responsibilities. This is going to change too. So I think attrition isn't the problem. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that it's not that we're saying women are leaving the workforce. That's not it. That's not the problem. We have to ensure that we allow flexibility in the workplace through all of the cycles of life, to ensure that we allow for those, whether it's a male or a female, to continue to stay in their jobs. But in this case, they're saying attrition is not the problem, at least not from the data from North America. This was an interesting one. I'll just give you a minute to read it. performance bias. Women are left behind from the beginning and get less, as a result, and get less access to senior leadership. And let's be honest, the senior leadership are those that are making the decisions to progress the careers, right? So what they said, and I want to let you think about this, is men are normally overestimated in their abilities and their potential, and women are only taken on proven track record. I see a lot of nodding. So, in other words, I see when I'm looking at succession planning, and this is an unconscious bias that comes out. And I'm gonna tell you of a real example. Looking at candidates to fill the succession pipelines. And when it becomes, let's say, a female and a male candidate with semi the same background, yeah? When they're talking about the gentleman or the man, they say, well, that will be, that's gonna be a great challenge for him. Yeah? Challenge. He's a good guy, it's gonna be a challenge. Have you heard this? Okay. Then we talk about the female candidate. Ooh, that's a stretch. Challenge, stretch. Really, they're kind of the same. But one has a more positive, empowering definition, and the other one is saying it's a stretch, and it'll be difficult for you to attain. And as a result, what they see, at least in the McKinsey, it's about a 70 to 30% promotion rate after that first stage of one's career. If you recall, I said it was 48-52, so essentially gender neutral. But then it starts to shrink. And I think we see that as well. And I mean, I personally say, no, it's not a stretch or a challenge. You know what? We really need to make sure that we empower and give people the right skills to do the right jobs, regardless. But I think that is what also causes that funnel approach, unfortunately. It's a fact. And that's what they've observed. Now, who has been the only one? Who's trailblazed? Who has gotten a role that was always occupied by a man before? Hands up. Exactly. Do you remember the first time you entered into a boardroom or a meeting room, being the only one? Who remembers that? How did you feel? Did you feel, wow, I can't wait, let me take a seat? Did you say, oh my gosh, I'm underdressed, where's my blue or gray suit? Sorry, gentlemen, we really appreciate you being here, and we can't do it without you, and you have a lovely suit. But I mean, that's the reality. That's the reality, and I use this analogy, and it gets mixed reviews, but somebody from the financial banking sector said it to me. So the woman described it as, to a fellow male colleague, imagine it's a room full of women doing yoga, and you show up. And then you go in and try to do the moves, and try to blend in, and then to make it worse, all the women passing by in the window looking at you and pointing and saying, why is he in there? Just to put into perspective. But jokes aside, it is a daunting task. And actually, it prevents, I think, women then feel discouraged sometimes if they don't see movement, if they see they're always the only one. And I'll talk about, trying to retain and attract talent in some of the next slides. And I have received that feedback where they say, well, I don't really see, how am I gonna fit into this? And I think that's another issue. We can't always be the only one. So, and then as a result, it's an uneven playing field. And the woman just feels like she can't do it, and she's not kind of accepted. In actuality, it ends up being exclusion versus inclusion. So that's what the report says. In a nutshell. So, Sheryl Sandberg, we all know who she is. She famously wrote Lean In. And she looked at this report and she said, progress for women hasn't slowed, it's just stopped or stalled, based on the statistics from the report. And I think based on the statistics I showed you earlier for Germany, We're progressing, but nowhere near at the pace that we need to be. So we all have to act together. Because there's changes around us. Really, there's a lot of change that requires for us to open our eyes and to include everyone in the workplace. Internally and externally, by the way. And here are some of the factors that are, let's say, creating change and disruption today. Mega connectivity. Everybody has phones, right? Multiple devices. I heard a statistics that is astounding. By 2020, 7.5 devices will be out in the world. What's the population of the world? 7.65. So everybody's having devices. Everybody's connected. What does that mean? You get information at your fingertips. You all have it. You have a computer right in your hand today. Mega connectivity. Digital innovation. Why? Look at Hannover Messe. Walk around. IoT, AI, robotics, disruption, digitalization, big data. What do we do with that? All digital innovation. And by the way, at a pace of change that we've never seen before. Customer expectations. This is a huge one. It's disrupting the industry. The expectations of the customer are changing. They want us to be faster. They want to have cost out quicker, time to market, all of these things. Fast. Competitors are also changing. User experience. This is actually, we all now demand it, right? Who uses Amazon? Amazon. Yeah, absolutely. What happens if it doesn't get delivered in the time that you expect? You're mad. Exactly. That's the user experience. It's much more important. You are expecting it. You're not just demanding it, you're expecting it, which is different. Leadership. Leadership. Does leadership have to change? Yeah. I always say, I say leadership used to be like this, right? Hierarchy. And I have a photo, and I remember my daughter, it was one of my slides actually, because I talk about leadership a lot. And she looked at the triangle and there had little people, right? And she goes, "Mommy, where are all the women?" And I'm like, yeah. So it says that leadership used to be like this. There was somebody at the top shouting and saying, command and control, this is what needs to be done. It goes cascades all the way down as the organization. Nobody dares go back up, right? I mean, it's just directive. The leadership of the future is like this. It's like this. It goes back to the connectivity, to the data, to people coming in, saying this is what needs to be done, moving, leaving. Who has an office, a stationary office? There's backpacks. Your office is where you can connect. All of this is really disrupting the way we work and the way we lead. And again, to give you some recent, at our DI, or Digital Industries Conference, we had an external analyst come see us to talk about what are the impressions, what's happening in the industry. And he talked about leadership. And what he said was, leadership is changing, and even the investor community is seeing it. And there's a direct correlation being drawn between the alpha, directive, command and control type leadership, and you can say it's men, but it also could be women, but that alpha personality is directly correlated to the demise of companies and to companies not being successful. And he said that leadership is not going to work in the future because this doesn't work anymore. It has to be this constant teamwork, constantly working together. So when an external analyst is telling you that, you listen. He called it alpha male, but I'll just say alpha. Yeah? But the alpha male personality, that's not the leadership of the future. Last but not least, inclusiveness and diversity. So everybody immediately thinks diversity equals gender. It's not. And I can tell you, 10 years ago, when I was in a leadership position in Canada, I was asked to start a gender-based diversity program. And I remember thinking, how is this gonna go? I had over 30 cultures and different backgrounds and ethnicities in my team. We had well over 35% of women already in leadership positions. And I went back to headquarters, if you will, and I said, I can't do this. I said it's actually going to be counterproductive. I said, because gender diversity is a given. Now we got to think about other things. Things like sexual orientation. By the way, I meant to tell you that of the 25 CEOs in the Fortune 500, only one woman of the 25 had the courage to come out and say that she's a lesbian. Only one. Because it's still stigma attached. So diversity is not just gender. Diversity is that whatever it is that you bring with you, your sexual orientation, your background, your culture, where you come from, it doesn't matter. It's that the workplace allows you to be your full person, to allow your full potential. That's what inclusiveness and diversity means. Okay, so change is everywhere, right? Did I convince you? Yeah? Good. So, as a result, as I mentioned, we need diversity, we need inclusiveness to really master the challenges of today's complex world. To me, that summarizes it. We have to. And it's not a nice to have. It's for our business. There are statistics out there, again, to quote my statistics, that for companies that are in below the 25% of diversity and ethnicity diversity are then up to 30% less profitable than other companies that have more diversity included in their teams. And I'm going to show you some examples of this. It's vital to our business. So, why? Now we come to the why. I've convinced you of where we are today. That change is everywhere, that we still have some work to do. So why does diversity and inclusion create business value? The first is, what do you think? And I can tell you, by the way, it goes both ways. Inclusiveness, like I said, let's take away gender for a moment. If you only put female, white, North American CFOs in a room and say, okay, develop something creative about the digital finance of the future, we can come up with some pretty good ideas. But would it be the most innovative, taking into account different backgrounds, different cultures, different, let's say, levels of maturity? No. Because then we have a kind of a bias. So by including more people into it, you take that bias out and you get a more creative workplace, a more innovative product or outcome. Have I convinced you? Yes, hopefully. Next, more well-balanced decisions. This is actually talked about a lot in the media these days about female investment managers and their appetite for risk and the fact that they're actually a little bit more balanced and they create more return over a longer period of time. But for this more well-balanced decisions, I want to give you a tangible example. So Qantas, who knows Qantas, right? Big airline, Australian, well-respected. So in 2013, Qantas was at a really bad turning point. They had 2.3 billion in losses, and they were just bleeding money. 2018, so fast forward 5 years later, 2018, they're now an esteemed employer of choice, they're a trusted company, and they're almost 1 billion, record 1 billion almost in profit. And the reason why it was different and why I wanted to use this as an example, when asked, the CEO, Alan Joyce, what would you expect him to say? Well, we had cost-out programs, we decided to do this, we changed the setup, organizational structure, and everything like that. No, we didn't. He said, I credit our success to the open and inclusive environment that we've created. Then he went on to say, this got us through the hard times. So think about all of you today, when things start to go in a different direction, or let's say in a negative direction at work. What happens? Do you say, okay, everybody, let's create an open environment and brainstorm and what are all your thoughts? Let's think about it, how we could do it. Is that what happens naturally? No. But what he said was, he credited the inclusive environment. He said we had better risk management, better, let's say, fact-finding, better inputs, and as a result, a better outcome. And I thought that was really, first of all, brave and courageous of him to say that. But obviously he knows that it creates business value. And he says this is actually what made the differentiator. Of course, I'm sure there were all tangible measures behind, but he believed that that was the one factor that really drove him from a loss-making business to the highest profit ever. Next, customer relevance. I was talking to a colleague, and his daughter and a few university friends are starting a startup, and it's in the space of data, of course, and developing, let's say, some really great marketing techniques from data. And he said the group, and he's actually a very respected a colleague of mine, and he said, they're such a diverse group. They're one is from South America, one's from India, and they've come together after university and they're doing great. They're developing this brand new company, and they needed funding. So what happens when a group of white shirts and suits, women and men, let's make it gender neutral, come in to talk to them and say, okay, let's talk about investing. What do you think? Is that relevant to them? Do they say, you know what, I would like to work with you? Maybe they say, hey, experience. But actually, they'd say, we'd like someone who understands us, who understands our business models, who understands what we're trying to achieve. In order to be successful in geographies, you have to be relatable. And that's what I mean by relevance to the customer and becoming relevant. And I think we really have to change this. I walk around Hannover Messe. Broader talent pool. I don't think I really need to describe this. Who wants the best person to be on their team? The best person, right? Would you exclude 50% of the talent pool off the bat? No. So this, of course, by opening up the talent pool, by including everybody in the executive searches or in your searches for the next posting, please ensure that, what we do at least is we really try to ensure that there's a diverse candidate and that we're making sure that we don't create blinders and only, what we say, recruit the mini-me's, because it's easy, right? Sometimes you want someone who's as good as you, who understands, so you're like, I need to get somebody who looks and does exactly what I do. But that's actually a bias we all have. So a broader talent pool. All right, now this is Siemens. This is our headquarters in Munich. So I wanted to share with you a little bit what we are doing. And again, we're also on a journey. We have 170, we know we're global, so we have 171 nationalities in our workforce. 4 generations, you saw that on the change slide. Having 4 generations in a workforce is difficult because how you motivate and engage one may not work for the other. So right now we're in a 4-generational workforce, sometimes 5. We have 24% female share. You can see the split between senior management and management. Making progress. But this is actually pretty good, actually, I would say. 2 female board members of 8. That's not too bad. That's actually, I think, best in class. This actually also very important in terms of having an inclusive environment. Starting the different networks, LGBT, diversity. I think then you start to create that stigma that I said is attached to some of this goes away, because then you start to create a community. And I'm really proud that we have over 80 active networks, and they're becoming more and more vibrant and more active. So that's really good progress that we've made. 5% of our workforce in Germany, or 5,990, give or take, are disabled. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. We really need to ensure, coming from, let's say, North America, where the accessibility is absolutely paramount, has to be in all of the buildings, we have to ensure that we continue to have accessibility so anybody with any disability can work and be part of our teams. And yes, we're actually getting awards for our diversity programs, which is also kind of cool. So that's good. since 2004, over 100. And here's our goal. Our goal is 25%. 25% female share. Because I showed you earlier the share on the management and senior management and management level, but we want to continue to go, like I said, remember the funnel? So the entry 50-50, and then it slowly gets smaller and smaller. We need to increase the middle, and that's what this is trying to do. And we're all actively pursuing that target. So, the time has come to an end. I'm going to leave you with some last thoughts. Please, please, please. Diversity without inclusion, you have to have both. Someone described me, actually described my situation to me, and I'll share that with you. He said, Maria, if you have a bunch of male engineers and then you put only one female into that, that's not inclusion. And I said, what do you mean? Of course it is. You know, you're starting to create a different environment. And he said, no, it's not inclusion. He goes, you're just disrupting them. And I said to him, I am a bit of a disruptor, but I like to do that. But I thought about it theoretically, and I said, I'm disrupting them. And he's right. Because that group was working in harmony. It was. They all spoke the same language. They all came from the same backgrounds. I mean, I'm generalizing now, but he really opened my eyes. And he said, you know, that doesn't create an inclusive environment. He goes, you're disrupting. It wasn't, he also said it wasn't that they were as high performing or the potential had been, you know, as much as it could have been because a homogeneous group. But he said, you put in the middle, you're disrupting, right? And I'm like, yes, I am, and I'm going to continue to disrupt. But we have to be aware that that's not inclusion. So you can't just have one person in there because then you get this exclusionary effect or people feeling alone. So please remember that. Middle managers, this is really a topic. Because I can be at the top of that triangle that I mentioned earlier, talking about how we need inclusion and how we need diversity and saying here's all the reasons why and this is why it's important. So I've been enlightened. I have the experience. You can see the facts, right? And then, of course, those that are coming into the organization are absolutely, let's say, expecting, you know, to not have these biases in place, to have an inclusive environment. And then you have the concrete in the middle. So therefore, and it can't work, by the way. It can't work if you only have those coming in, and then you have the people at the top setting the tone and making sure that those principles are understood are important, but you have to be able to penetrate the middle or else it won't work. So they all have to be part of the solution versus, let's say, what I call the concrete level in the middle. So please don't forget the middle management. Have you heard this? We're going to tick this, we're going to get this, and tick off the box, and everything's going to be great. Don't worry, I have my 3 action items, and as long as I get that, then we're fine, right? Yeah, maybe. For 1 year. Maybe, right? Because then you're forcing the topic and making sure that you get the representation. But the culture has to change behind it. The culture has to change behind it. Because otherwise, you're getting the microaggressions and you're getting that passive aggressiveness that you hear and you feel sometimes. And we have to make sure that the culture changes and we're not just ticking boxes and we're not just having targets to have targets. We have to believe that this creates value. And this is a really important one, really important. We have to work together. And this is where I credit, if you think back to the 2019 photo that you see, and there's a lot of the very important members of the Siemens AG team, our CEO, my CEO, Klaus Helmrich for DI. I am an example of progress. I'm on this stage because they helped me get there. Men are helping. We need to get them to be also part of the solution because we can't do it alone. So that's point 1. Point 2 is there's another phenomenon that I'm sensing and coming along across from time to time. Women, listen up. We got to help each other. We gotta help each other. I see it as my personal obligation, really, the opportunities that has been afforded to me that allows me the honor of speaking to all of you. I see it my responsibility to ensure that I coach and mentor and I bring women along with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the leader that I want to be or that I profess to be. It's really important that you don't close the door behind you. And I'm sensing from time to time there's a little bit of this phenomenon. We have to help each other. We have to help each other, create the networks, make sure that we continue to know one another. That's really important. And there's an excellent quote that I'm going to leave you with on this one. It's from Madeleine Albright. And she said, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't help women." So, the time is now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just one last, I think the Swedish Prime Minister said it best on the opening on Sunday evening when he said, look, we are stronger together. Sweden can learn from Germany in terms of energy, innovation and engineering expertise. But Germany, you can learn from Sweden, from our entrepreneurial spirit, our startup culture, and our absolute dedication to gender equality. So because together, we're stronger. Thank you very, very much. And enjoy the evening, everybody.
Siemens. Ingenuity for life.